welcome everybody to another episode of Three to the Rescue interview. For those of you that want to watch this interview in our YouTube channel or in our podcast, Three to the Rescue, we're three advisors, Maria, Desiree, and me, Sara de Miguel. We are interviewing different people that we have met through our Thermomix journey, fantastic experiences and stories that we want to share with you to inspire you, but as well to show you the passion for cooking and of course cooking with Thermomix. So today I am very pleased and it's a pleasure to have a new guest with us, Jo Whitton, all the way from Australia. And for those of you that know Jo, she is the amazing woman behind Quirky Cooking. This is a book that we got. I think it was one of my very first books, Jo. So I was really, really happy to be here today, have the opportunity to interview you. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. But for people that don't know you, Jo, what can we tell them about you? What would you tell them?
Okay. I started a little blog about 12 years ago. I was living on a farm in far north Queensland, which for those of you who don't know Australia very well is right near the top on the right-hand side on the east. And it's a very country area. I was living on a dairy farm. I had 4 little children under 7 years old. And and I was struggling with my health. And I always had struggled with my health, and my kids' health was not good either. We had a lot of food intolerances. We had all kinds of health issues and reactions. And I was learning everything I could about healthy eating and cooking for food allergies and intolerances. And in my learnings and searchings, I found the Thermomix. And as you guys probably know, it's very handy for someone who's trying to cook everything from scratch and needs to know what ingredients are in their food. And so I fell in love with the Thermomix in 2003. And in 2004, I got my first Thermomix, the TM21. Still have it, still works. I got my Thermomix in 2004 and I started my blog in 2008. And by then I was using it all the time to cook, my allergy-friendly, healthy recipes. And there wasn't a lot of Thermomix recipes around back then for people with food intolerances and allergies. There wasn't a lot of even health kind of recipes. So I made my own up. And so then, I started sharing that on my website, and it grew and became a business. And it was just a little, a way to connect with other people on the same journey, and a place to share what I was learning and a place to share my recipes. And it became a business. And I'm very happy about that because I get to do what I love.
And a very successful business because you even got into the top 25 of food and well-being blogs in Australia. So well done.
And Australia is a big country. So that's a big thing.
It's a big country without many people.
Yes. So in your case, Thermomix has really added a lot of value to your life. It has completely changed it because it has helped you to be able for you to create a diet that is better for you as well. Yes. And also you have to make a business out of it as well. So that's very good.
Yeah. And like when I first started my website, there wasn't really many Thermomix recipes online. And so I mostly shared Thermomix recipes. And at first I'd have people going, why are you sharing Thermomix recipes? We want the conventional method. And I'm like, yeah, but you've got so many websites for that. I'm just sharing this for people who want the Thermomix method. But now my focus has changed a lot over the years. When I first started my website, the focus was cooking for allergies and food intolerances, and it was mostly Thermomix recipes. But as the family's journey went on and we had some major health issues in the family, I learned more and more about gut health, and we had to go down a different path than the way I was going, and we had to do a special diet to heal the gut. And then seeing the change in my son and myself from doing that gut healing diet just really took me on a different trajectory. I just really wanted to share that with everyone, whether they have a Thermomix or not. I wanted people to know how to heal with food. And so that's my main focus now. And I always try to make sure I've got the conventional methods in there because I do want this to be accessible to anyone.
Yes, that's a very good point. There is something that I love about your content in general. Yes, I met you for the first time when you still had your blog. The first book still wasn't out and most recipes were Thermomix. Yes, I have been following you for a long time. I'm a big fan. I mean, I'm very, very excited, but I am concealing it.
Well, this might be fun. Just let it out.
Yeah, I tell you. But something I always liked about your approach at the beginning with Thermomix, and now obviously the conventional or traditional method as well, is just giving that healthier twist to everything. Because I still have people telling me, yeah, I don't really want a Thermomix because it's just to make cakes and I don't want to eat cakes, for example, So that's why it was so mind-blowing to find your blog when you started. Because finally somebody is cooking or suggesting healthy recipes, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and I think because I was a Thermomix consultant, I'm not sure what you call them over there, team leader or
advisor,
and team leader for 5 years. And I really noticed, like when we were doing public demonstrations in shopping centres or out and about, that probably half the people we talked to had allergies or food intolerances in the family or special diets of some sort. And to me, that was just like, this is the perfect tool in the kitchen. If you have to make your own nut and seed milks, if you need to make your own tomato sauce to make sure that it's got only the ingredients that you can have, if you need to, make your own pasta sauces and all of these things, it's so much easier to know what you've got going into it and to have a machine that makes it easier to get everything prepped and then it cooks it by itself. So that really became my niche market, I guess, because I was always finding these people. It's funny how I guess you find what you attract, what you talk about. But
of course.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there really struggling with health issues and special diets and trying to cope with the overwhelm of cooking for those special diets.
Yeah, and I think today you would have agreed with me that when we were going now, all the advisors we do the visits all has to be virtually, all the cooking demos.
Yes,
I remember going, and your book was always with me because it was a great way to show that if you had any nut allergy or dairy free that you needed, or celiac or grains, I always have the Quirky Cooking with me. And I always said, you can adapt whatever you want into the Thermomix. I said, and Jo will help you. And because even doing all the
my book is destroyed. It's very well used.
Oh, you do love your book. That's nice.
Yes, I wanted to ask you actually, Jo, because of what you mentioned of going into a different trajectory at the moment. Can you please explain for those that don't know what is GAPS, please?
Yes, so maybe I should start with explaining what happened. My second son, he was, actually it kind of started when he was younger. When he was about 11, we started to see a lot of anxiety and kind of really odd behavior, like phobias and fears that were totally not rational. We started to see a lot of that coming up. And I remember thinking back when he was 11, I was thinking, well, I know how much food helps me if I'm really careful with what I eat. So I really pulled back on his diet, made sure he wasn't having rubbish and made sure he was, careful with his food, and he would improve. And then, slowly, bit by bit, you get a bit slack and he'd be having junk food when he was out, or, you'd let a little bit creep in here and there and he would go downhill again. And it sort of was that, a bit of a roller coaster, because it wasn't so bad back then that that we changed anything drastically. And I was just still learning about gut health. And then when he was 13, he just went downhill really quickly. And he went down into severe OCD and anxiety and depression, really bad phobias. He basically was just like couldn't cope with everyday life, couldn't do school. We were homeschooling, but he couldn't even manage that. Couldn't go out, couldn't play with his friends, couldn't just having a shower or changing clothes or going to the toilet or going to bed at night. Everything was a mission. It took forever. He would do the repetitive actions over and over and over and over for like half an hour. You'd finally get him into bed, and then he'd take the covers off and on and off and on and off and on for ages. And then he'd start screaming out, just screaming for no reason when everybody else was trying to go to sleep at 11 p.m. or whatever. And I just didn't know what in the world was going on. And I just, I talked to doctors, I researched, and I finally decided seems like OCD to me. So I went to the doctor and said, can you check him and see if you think it might be OCD? And she did the tests that they do and, asked the questions and said, yes, he's very severe. She said he's going to have to be put onto medication. And I was just like, oh, I really don't want him to be on antidepressants for the rest of his life. And she's like, oh, no, it's okay. People are, and they cope with that and it's fine. And I'm thinking, well, he's 13. Yeah. Like definitely we needed something right then because he was so bad and none of us were coping. He was at the stage that I was spoon feeding him. He was not able to even do that. And so he went on to medication, but I started just talking to everybody I could in the health world. Because of my work and traveling and speaking at health seminars, I met a lot of people that were really up on gut health and well-researched and knew, how to work on healing the gut. And so I started ringing them and saying, what do I do? Is this like a sign of poor gut health? And they were all like, yes, definitely. The gut-brain connection is so important. You've got to work on healing his gut. And so I started researching that. And we decided to start the GAPS diet, which stands for Gut and Psychology Syndrome or Gut and Physiology Syndrome. And it's a protocol that was developed by a neurologist about 25 years ago. She actually lives in the UK, but she's from Russia. And she developed that for her own son. And she learnt all about traditional healing foods from her own childhood in Russia when she was very, very ill, and her grandmother basically brought her back to life with healing foods. So the traditional meat stocks and the fermented milk and dairy and the fermented vegetables and the beautiful organic vegetables grown in the garden and the really good quality nourishing foods that used to be just traditional foods and not thought of as anything special, but those are the foods that the human body thrives on. And her grandmother knew that, and she helped her to heal with those foods. So Dr. Natasha took these principles from that she'd learned in her childhood and also studying other healing diets around the world and put them into a protocol that's basically like an elimination diet where you pull back on the foods that are hard to digest, and you start with really easy to digest foods, and you slowly, one by one, bring another food in, waiting for 3 days to see if you react, waiting for the gut to heal, and slowly, slowly adding to it. And so that's what we did. It took us, we pretty much stayed mostly on that diet for 2 years because I'd heard that was, if you could do that was really good for healing. Like if you could manage to stay on it for 2 years, that would be the goal at least. So like a lot of people will dash through it in 6 weeks and still get heaps of benefits. I'm not saying you have to do it for 2 years, but I was just so determined because Isaac was so bad. He was just so unwell. But within weeks, we started to see big changes and he started to come out of that fog. He started to interact more. He started to laugh and smile. And at first I thought, maybe it's the medication. And I remember saying he was having counselling, and I said to the psychologist, do you think he's doing so well, he's skipping whole sections of his counselling because he's just jumping through the course really quickly? I said, is it because of the medication? Because I'm scared that if I take him off the medication, he's just going to go back to the beginning again. And she said, it's not the medication. She said, the doctors usually doubled the dose within 3 months. She said he never had his medication increased. And she said, it's everything else you're doing. So we were working on diet, plus we were doing as many of the lifestyle things that we could think of and learn about to help him heal, like reducing stress, plenty of love and counselling and chatting and time with family and community, and getting outdoors in the sunshine and swimming in fresh water, rivers and lakes, and doing sports and going for walks and detox baths and filtered water to drink, and all the things that help with healing and detoxing the body. And he just really responded to it. And so did I. I was also, sickly all my life. And it just changed my life as well. So he is now 19. He went off medication within a year, less than a year.
Wow.
He's never been back on. He has his times where he gets anxiety, or if you know anyone with OCD, you know the different things that they go through. But, like the anxious thoughts that go round and round in your head, which we can all get at times.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. But he knows how to work through it now, and he knows the kind of food that really helps him. So he is really responsible for his own diet now. He's got a car, he's got a full-time job. He doesn't have to do what I say, but he just organizes his own ideas on food now, and he doesn't eat gluten, he doesn't have sugar, he doesn't have vegetable oils. He works really hard to get those good nourishing foods in, because he knows how much better it makes him feel.
And Isaac is now even on a stage with you. I have seen him in a couple of the talks as well.
Yeah, he started speaking on stage with me at 14. Within 6 months of starting the GAPS diet, he was on stage talking to 200 people. Yeah. He's spoken in front of 1,000 people. This was a kid who couldn't leave his room.
But that's amazing how he was able to focus, because I know you cannot focus on the fact that he went to be able to do talks. So that's an amazing turnaround.
Yeah.
So that's a great story to hear. Fantastic.
Yeah, and he loves languages. He's learning 3 languages at the moment, and he does learn a little bit of Spanish too.
Nice.
Wow, you can practice with him.
You can practice with us.
My other kids and my husband all learn Spanish. And
nice.
Yeah, he's mostly Asian languages. He loves Japanese, Chinese, Korean, but he's done a bit of Spanish as well.
So that has to be a challenge as well, to having to cook for a family with 4 teenagers at the moment, and also having to take into account all these diets, because all your food allergies that you have. So how were you able to cope with all that?
Well, we don't have food allergies anymore, so that's awesome. So that's one of the things that really changed with healing the gut. I couldn't even handle butter or ghee. I couldn't eat them. That's how bad my dairy intolerance was. But after a year on working on the GAPS diet and healing the gut, we were fine with any dairy. So it's a lot easier now. Our diet is a lot wider, and I think that's the thing about really focusing on the root cause of gut health, of health issues and allergies and intolerances. If you go right back to the root cause and work on that, it may feel a bit hard at first because you've got less foods, but you eventually end up with a much wider variety of foods. So life is simpler now. We do eat very simple meals, which you've probably noticed if you've watched any of my Instagram videos. Mostly our meals are very simple, mostly meat and veggies, meat stocks. We do have some baking, but not every day. Like snacks will be yogurt and roasted fruit and some granola maybe, And we do have, you know, a few treats here and there, mostly homemade. But because the kids are all older now, it is easier. They do help a lot. I don't generally have to do many dishes, so that's nice. The family does the dishes.
That's nice. Yeah,
it's very nice.
And do you help Thermomix help you to do all this, so you are not able to cook that much anymore?
Yes, I have 2 Thermomixes on my bench all the time, and one in the cupboard. But I do use them, like especially if I'm doing a cook up, I'll be using both at once, plus the stovetop, plus the oven. It's just all hands on deck. And my sister comes and helps me once a week, and we just bang out a heap of cooking. And but the Thermomixes get used every day. Definitely.
I can see that on your Instagram stories. Funnily enough, 2 of my favorite recipes that I have learned from you are not with Thermomix.
Oh, there you go.
One of them is the
Okay, I don't know what happened with the bring it out in a minute. She'll come back.
Hopefully she comes back.
Yeah. But if, like, I know one of the reasons you were cooking a lot the last few weeks, Jo, was because there is something coming up very soon. I know you were taking beautiful pictures. Tell us more about it.
Yes, I'm working on my 3rd cookbook at the moment. We've just finished all the photo shoots for that. I'm in the editing and finishing off the writing sort of stage, which is going on forever, and I keep thinking the end is in sight, and then it's not, but I'll get there.
Yeah, because I know you were started when the lockdown happened, so for taking pictures probably wasn't an easy time for you.
Yeah, so we started the photo shoot in February, and that was down in another state, because my photographer lives in Sydney, so it's about 3,000 kilometres away from me, which is not that far for Australia.
And they closed the borders as well, so you couldn't even
They closed the borders. And so then we got the first lot of photos done. It was only about a quarter of the recipes, maybe a fifth. And then the lockdown happened. And I don't know, I just dropped the bundle. That's what we say in Australia. I just got so focused on all the other things that I had to do. And I thought, well, when the lockdown eases and we can go over borders, I'll get the rest of the photo shoots done. And of course, that didn't happen for so long that I finally had to get another photographer in my own state.
Great.
So we got a couple of photo shoots done up here.
When can we expect to have it and being shipped over to the UK and Ireland so we can have a copy of it?
Yes, I'll have to do that. Hopefully May next year. It all just takes a long time. So when I finish all my writing and editing, then the designer and the indexer and the proofreader and the editor and everything all do their bit for 2 months or so. And then it goes to the printers. And so, yeah, it takes a fair while.
We look forward to having a copy and that you come over to Europe and we get to
I hope so. This stupid COVID thing will go away.
But we have the Sire back. The Sire, what were you saying? What recipes would you recommend?
Yes, that mushroom one. I'm sorry, my connection went. I'm sorry. I thought it was you, ladies. The connection is bad. 3 people are bad and I'm okay.
What were you saying? Which recipes were you saying were your favorites?
So you have one, I saw it on Instagram stories, which is the very thinly sliced mushrooms. You put them in the oven with lots of oil at a high temperature and they become crispy, crunchy, and I don't know why, they taste like chips.
They do.
Awesome.
They taste and almost like bacon. There's so much flavor.
Oh my goodness. So I make them all the time because my husband and me are on a low carb diet. So, but sometimes you crave the flavor of chips. So I make the mushrooms and I promise you, my husband is like, they really taste like chips. And it's like, that's Jo Whitton.
Oh, so very good.
That is one. That's a staple. It's a staple in our home. And the other one is the chicken with 40 cloves of garlic.
Yes, my grandmother's recipe.
I know. Oh my goodness, I make that all the time.
Was she Spanish, your grandmother? In Spanish
should have
connections
been.
with the garlic.
No, from Texas, actually.
Mexican, close to Mexico.
Yeah, maybe it was that. Yeah, it was
that influence. Yes.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, what's the next question? Because I got lost here when I.
Yes, sorry, she did ask me something and I've forgotten.
No. What I wanted to say was, like, now that we are talking about recipes, okay?
Yes.
If you had to share one with us, your favorite one. I know it's not an easy question. What would you say?
That is not an easy question. Okay, so I'm guessing like a Thermomix recipe. Well, I can tell you what I make in my Thermomix the most at the moment is ghee.
Yeah, I have seen you.
Ghee. It's just like, I mean, how can you beat caramelized butter? Okay, so that's not a meal though. So let me think of a meal. I probably make soups and chilies and things like that a lot. But if you're thinking of something that really utilizes the whole Thermomix, something like the coconut rice chicken with all the vegetables. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's an old one.
I've seen it, yes.
Yeah, I think I made it up once when I was just in a hurry, which is like good because we want easy recipes, right? We're always busy. And it's got the chicken on the top layer of the varoma, and then it's got the vegetables, and then it's got rice in a basket, and then it's got coconut milk and water in the bowl, and a bit of chicken stock. And then as you cook the rice with the coconut milk in there, it sort of bubbles up into the varoma a little bit too. And you get this beautiful chicken flavored coconut rice, and it's really moist. And then you've got your vegetables and chicken, and then you make a sauce out of the juices left in the bowl. When you're finished, you take everything off, and then you've got some like chicken stock and coconut milk left in the bowl, and you just add some cashews and some salt and pepper and just blend it up, and it makes a really thick creamy sauce. So that kind of thing, I've got a few variations of that, like paprika chicken and a tikka salmon and different ones that I like. You know, when you just don't want to think too hard and you just want to chuck something in and get dinner done and it's delicious. And it actually makes heaps. We have leftovers for 6 people, and it's 6 adults, and I have big boys, like one of them's 6 foot something, and they eat a lot. So
yeah,
when you have
that would be a recipe for you, Maria. We do one.
Definitely, I had 3 teenagers that it's impossible to keep them
you just
fed.
I think the next best thing would be the smoothies. Like, we just make so many smoothies, and it's so good for filling up teenagers.
That's good. And all these wonderful things that you have available at the moment, where can people find you in social media? What do you have for people that might not have met you before and want to know a little bit more about you and your recipes? Where can we find you?
The best thing to do is just search Quirky Cooking, because it'll just all come up. So there's the website with 12 years worth of recipes. There's videos on YouTube and on Instagram and on Facebook, so you can watch my cooking videos. If you're on Instagram, just search Quirky Cooking, but my actual name on there is Jo Whitton, because I started that just as a private page, and then it just got all jumbled all together. So it's kind of, I call it it's sort of like the background page. It's what goes on in the background. So I video my everyday cooking, and it just goes up on my stories, and it's not edited or anything.
I love them. I really love them, because they're so spontaneous and natural. I like that they are not edited, because that's how I cook. I'm like, okay, let's get this this from the freezer, and I love it.
And then they love to mix things. Yes.
Yes.
And
the only problem is when I burn something or something fails, then I'm like, okay, well, that didn't work. This is what it looks like. Don't do that.
You know what, Jo? I think that's the joys of being in the kitchen and learning, and people finding it's a very safe environment where you try, you experiment, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it might not work the way you want it. But before we end today, okay, one question I really want to ask you is, if you were to talk to the Jo that started going into her first Thermomix demo, probably you call it as well, in Australia. What advice would you give her today?
This machine will change your life. You have no idea what you're going into here. No, it was a good change though. I have to tell you about the first demo I ever went to. I was 37 weeks pregnant with my youngest, and I went to this demo, and the lady made, did they still do the torta caprese? The chocolate.
Wait, we know the torta caprese.
Not in the demo.
They used to do that, and the custard, and there was like a big meal and everything. I ate so much. Pregnant woman, you know, hungry. And then she gave me the cake and all this stuff to take home. And I got home and I popped and had the baby. Because she fed me too much and I just popped. Really curly. But the good thing is I only went to the hospital for one night, and then I came home, and then I had all this chocolate cake in the fridge, and it was great.
Exactly what you need when you just gave birth.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you so much, Jo. It has been fantastic to have you in our podcast today, and to get to know you more and see that what we see on Instagram is exactly how you are, and inspiring us, you know, because like we were saying earlier, we have been following you for many years, and it's great to see how your journey has taken you in different ways, but again, the not knowing and trusting and going with it. So I want to thank you so much. For those of you that don't know Jo, please go to quirkycooking.com, her website, and you'll be able to find more information or on her social media platforms. And as she was saying, she has a new program, I know, coming soon in January for those that want to join your program, or the book that we look forward to see in the middle of next year. Thank you so much, Jo, for coming and joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
me.
Thank you. It was lovely to meet you guys.
Thank you.
When I come to Ireland, I'll come visit.
Definitely. Definitely.
No Dublin. No Dublin. Cork.
Okay. Awesome. I haven't been to Ireland yet. I'm ready.
So that's the perfect excuse now.
What was that?
That was the perfect excuse. You have never been, so
yeah, that's right.
See us in Cork.
And thank you so much to all our listeners or watching on our YouTube or podcast and Spotify for joining us today. Another episode of Three to the Rescue. And remember to listen to the other interviews that we have made over the last few months to get inspired with new ideas and new recipes. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.